The Noble Eightfold Path, the middle way. This is the path for leading a pure religious life without going to extremes. An outstanding aspect of the Buddha's teaching is the Eightfold Path, which is to be adopted as a noble way of life. Another name for the Eightfold Path is the middle path. The Buddha advised his followers to follow this path so as to avoid the extremes of sensual pleasures and self-mortification. The middle path is a righteous way of life that does not advocate the acceptance of decrees given by someone outside oneself. A person practices the middle path, the guide for moral conduct, not out of fear of any supernatural agency, but out of recognizing the intrinsic value in following such an action. He or she chooses this self-imposed discipline with a definite end in view, self-purification. The middle path is a planned course of inward culture and progress. A person can make real progress in righteousness and insight by following this path even without engaging in external worship and prayers. According to the Buddha, anyone who lives in accordance with the Dharma will be guided and protected by that very universal law. When a person lives according to Dharma, he or she will also be living in harmony with the universal law. Every Buddhist is encouraged to mold his or her life according to the Noble Eightfold Path as taught by the Buddha. One who adjusts one's life according to this noble way of living will be free from miseries and calamities both in this lifetime and hereafter. One will also be able to develop the mind by restraining from evil and observing morality. The Eightfold Path can be compared to a road map. Just as a traveler will need a map to reach a destination, we all need the Eightfold Path, which shows us how to attain nirvana, the final goal of human life. To attain the final goal, there are three aspects of the Eightfold Path to be developed by the devotee. One has to develop sila, morality, samadhi, mental culture, and panna, wisdom. While the three must be developed simultaneously, the intensity with which any one area is to be practiced varies according to a person's own spiritual development. A devotee must first develop morality, that is, his or her actions should bring good to other living beings. One does this by faithfully adhering to the precepts of abstaining from killing, slandering, stealing, becoming intoxicated or being lustful. As one develops one's morality, the mind will become more easily controlled, enabling one to develop one's powers of concentration. Finally, with the development of concentration, wisdom will arise. Gradual development. With his infinite wisdom, the Buddha knew that not all humans have the same ability to reach spiritual maturity at once. So he expounded the Noble Eightfold Path for the gradual development of the spiritual way of life in a practical way. He knew that not all people can become perfect in one lifetime. He said that sila, samadhi, and panna must and can be developed over many lifetimes with diligent effort. This path finally leads to the attainment of ultimate peace where there is no more unsatisfactoriness. Righteous life. The Eightfold Path consists of the following 8 factors. Sila, right speech, right action, right livelihood, morality. Samadhi, right effort, right mindfulness, right concentration, mental culture. Panna, right understanding, right thoughts, wisdom. What is right understanding? It is explained as having the knowledge of the Four Noble Truths. In other words, it is the understanding of things as they really are. Right understanding also means that one understands the nature of what are wholesome karma, merits, and unwholesome karma, demerits, and how they may be performed with the body, speech, and mind. By understanding karma, a person will learn to avoid evil and do good, thereby creating favorable outcomes in life. When a person has right understanding, he or she also understands the 3 characteristics of life, that all compounded things are transient, subject to suffering, and without a self, and understands the law of dependent origination. A person with complete right understanding is one who is free from ignorance. And by the nature of that enlightenment removes the roots of evil from the mind and becomes liberated. The lofty aim of a practicing Buddhist is to develop the mind to gain right understanding about the self, life, and all phenomena. When a person has right understanding, he or she develops right thought as well. This factor is sometimes known as right resolution, right aspirations and right ideas. It refers to the mental state which eliminates wrong ideas or notions and promotes the other moral factors to be directed to nirvana. This factor serves a double purpose of eliminating evil thoughts and developing pure thoughts. Right thought is important because it is one's thoughts which either purify or defile the mind. There are three aspects to right thought. First, a person should maintain an attitude of detachment from worldly pleasures rather than being selfishly attached to them. One should be selfless and think of the welfare of others. Second, the person should maintain loving kindness, goodwill and benevolence in the mind, which is opposed to hatred, ill will or aversion. Third, one should act with thoughts of harmlessness or compassion to all beings, which is opposed to cruelty and lack of consideration for others. As a person progresses along the spiritual path, one's thoughts will become increasingly benevolent, harmless, selfless, and filled with love and compassion. Right understanding and right thought, which are wisdom factors, will lead to good moral conduct. There are three factors under moral conduct: right speech, right action, and right livelihood. Right speech involves respect for truth and respect for the welfare for others. It means to avoid lying, to avoid backbiting or slander, to avoid harsh speech, and to avoid idle talk. We have often underestimated the power of speech and tend to use little control over our speech faculty. But we have all been hurt by someone's words at some time of our lives, and similarly we have been encouraged by the words of another. It is said that a harsh word can wound more deeply than weapons, whereas a gentle word can change the heart and mind of the most hardened criminal. So to develop a harmonious society, we should control, cultivate, and use our speech positively. We speak words which are truthful, bring harmony, and are kind and meaningful. The Buddha once said, "Pleasant speech is sweet as honey. Truthful speech is beautiful like a flower, and wrong speech is unwholesome like filth." The next factor under good moral conduct is right action. Right action entails respect for life, respect for property, and respect for personal relationships. It corresponds to the first three of the 5 precepts to be practiced by every Buddhist. That is, abstinence from killing, stealing, and sexual misconduct. Life is dear to all, and all tremble at punishment, all fear death and value life. Hence, we should abstain from taking a life which we ourselves cannot give, and we should not harm other sentient beings. Respect for property means that we should not take what is not given by stealing, cheating, or force. Respect for personal relationships means that we should not commit adultery and should avoid sexual misconduct, which is important for maintaining self-respect and the trust of those we love, as well as making our society a better place to live in. Right livelihood is a factor under moral conduct which refers to how we earn our living in society. It is an extension of the 2 other factors of right speech and right action. Right livelihood means that we should earn a living without violating these principles of moral conduct. Buddhists are discouraged from being engaged in the following 5 kinds of livelihood: trading in other living beings for slaughtering, trading in weapons, trading in flesh by causing the slaughter of animals, trading in intoxicating drinks and drugs, and trading in poison. Some people may say that they have to follow such an occupation for their living and, therefore, it is not wrong for them to do so. But this argument is entirely baseless. If it were valid, then thieves, murderers, gangsters, thugs, Smugglers and swindlers can also just as easily say that they are also doing such unrighteous acts only for their living end. Therefore, there is nothing wrong with their way of life. Some people believe that fishing and hunting animals for pleasure and slaughtering animals for food are not against the Buddhist precepts. This is another misconception that arises owing to a lack of knowledge in Dharma. All these are not decent actions and bring suffering to other beings. But in all these actions, the one who is harmed most of all is the one who commits these unwholesome actions. Maintaining a life through wrong means is not in accordance with the Buddha's teaching. The Buddha once said, "Though one should live 100 years immorally and unrestrained, yet it would indeed be better to live one day virtuously and meditatively." Dhammapada 103. It is better to die as a cultured and respected person than to live as a wicked person. The remaining three factors of the Noble Eightfold Path are factors for the development of wisdom through the purification of the mind. They are right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. These factors, when practiced, enable a person to strengthen and gain control over the mind, thereby ensuring that his or her actions will continue to be good and that the mind is being prepared to realize the truth, which will open the door to freedom, to enlightenment. Right effort means that we cultivate a positive attitude and have enthusiasm in the things we do. Whether in our career, in our study, or in our practice of the Dharma. With such a sustained enthusiasm and cheerful determination, we can succeed in the things we do. There are 4 aspects of right effort, 2 of which refer to evil and the other 2 to good. First, is the effort to reject evil that has already arisen, and second, the effort to prevent the arising of evil. Third, is the effort to develop good which has not arisen, and fourth, the effort to maintain the good which has arisen. By applying right effort in our lives, we can reduce and eventually eliminate the number of unwholesome mental states and increase and firmly establish wholesome thoughts as a natural part of our mind. Right effort is closely associated with right mindfulness. The practice of mindfulness is important in Buddhism. The Buddha said that mindfulness is the one way to achieve the end of suffering. Mindfulness can be developed by being constantly aware of 4 particular aspects. These are the application of mindfulness with regard to the body, body postures, breathing and so forth, feelings, whether pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. Mind, whether the mind is greedy or not, angry, dispersed or deluded or not. And mind objects, whether there are mental hindrances to concentration, the 4 noble truths, and so on. Mindfulness is essential even in our daily life, during which we act in full awareness of our actions, feelings, and thoughts, as well as of our environment. The mind should always be clear and attentive rather than distracted and clouded. Whereas right mindfulness is directing our attention to our body, feelings, mind, or mental object, or being sensitive to others, in other words, putting our attention to where we choose. Right concentration is the sustained application of that attention on the object without being distracted. Concentration is the practice of developing one-pointedness of the mind on one single object, either physical or mental. The mind is totally absorbed in the object without distractions, wavering, anxiety or drowsiness. Through practice under an experienced teacher, right concentration brings 2 benefits. Firstly, it leads to mental and physical well-being, comfort, joy, calm, tranquility. Secondly, it turns the mind into an instrument capable of seeing things as they truly are, and prepares the mind to attain wisdom. The Noble Eightfold Path is the most important truth taught by the Buddha. As a competent spiritual physician, the Buddha has identified the disease that afflicts all forms of life. And this is dukkha, or unsatisfactoriness. He then diagnosed the cause of the unsatisfactoriness, which is selfish greed and craving. He discovered that there is a cure for the disease, nirvana, the state where all unsatisfactoriness ceases. And the prescription is the Noble Eightfold Path. When a competent doctor treats a patient for a serious illness, the prescription is not only for physical treatment, but it is also psychological. The Noble Eightfold Path, the path leading to the end of suffering, is an integrated therapy designed to cure the disease of samsara through the cultivation of moral speech and action, the development of the mind, and the complete transformation of one's level of understanding and quality of thought. It shows the way to gain spiritual maturity and be released completely from suffering. For the good to do what is good is easy. For the bad to do what is bad is easy. For the bad to do what is good is difficult. For the noble to do what is bad is difficult. Udana.
Everything is changeable. What exists is changeable, and what is not changeable does not exist. We notice how life changes and how it continually moves between extremes and contrasts. We notice rise and fall, success and failure, loss and gain. We experience honor and contempt, praise and blame. And we feel how our hearts respond to happiness and sorrow, delight and despair, disappointment and satisfaction, fear and hope. These mighty waves of emotion carry us up, fling us down, and no sooner do we find some rest, than we are carried by the power of a new wave again. How can we expect a footing on the crest of the waves? Where shall we erect the building of our life in the midst of this ever-restless ocean of existence? This is a world where any little joy that is allotted to beings is secured only after many disappointments, failures and defeats. This is a world where scanty joy grows amidst sickness, desperation, and death. This is a world where beings who a short while ago were connected with us by sympathetic joy are at the next moment in want of our compassion. Such a world as this needs equanimity. It is the nature of the world that we live with our intimate friends who the next day can become our enemies to harm us. The Buddha described the world as an unending flux of becoming. All is changeable, continuous transformation, ceaseless mutation, and a moving stream. Everything exists from moment to moment. Everything is a recurring rotation of coming into being and then passing out of existence. Everything is moving from birth to death. Life is a continuous movement of change towards death. The matter or material forms in which life does or does not express itself are also a continuous movement or change towards decay. This teaching of the impermanent nature of everything is one of the main pivots of Buddhism. Nothing on earth partakes of the character of absolute reality. That there will be no death of what is born is impossible. Whatever is subject to origination is subject also to destruction. Change is the very constituent of reality. The Buddha reminded us that all existing component things are impermanent. With birth, there is death; with arising, there is dissolving; with coming together, there is separation. How can there be birth without death? How can there be arising without dissolving? How can there be coming together without separation? In declaring the law of impermanence or change, the Buddha denies the existence of eternal substances. Matter and spirit are false abstractions that, in reality, are only changing factors, dharma, which are connected and which arise in functional dependence on each other. Today, scientists have accepted the law of change that was discovered by the Buddha. Scientists postulate that there is nothing substantial, solid, and tangible in the world. Everything is a vortex of energy, never remaining the same for 2 consecutive moments. The whole wide world is caught up in this whirl and vortex of change. One of the theories postulated by scientists is the prospect of the ultimate coldness following upon the death or destruction of the sun. Buddhists are not dismayed by this prospect. The Buddha taught that universes or world cycles arise and pass away in endless succession, just as the lives of individuals do. Our world will most certainly come to an end before other worlds come into existence. It has happened before with previous worlds and it will happen again. It is simply a matter of time. The world is a passing phenomenon. We all belong to the world of time. Every written word, every carved stone, every painted picture, the structure of civilization, every generation of human beings, will vanish away like the leaves and flowers of forgotten summers. What exists is changeable and what is not changeable does not exist. Thus all gods and human beings and animals and material forms, everything in this universe is subject to the law of impermanency. Buddhism teaches us that the mind seeks a permanent existence but life creates an impermanent physical body. We take this as life, and then unsatisfactoriness disturbs the mind. This is the source of suffering. The body like a lump of foam. The feelings like a water bubble. Perception like a mirage. Volitional activities like a banana tree. And consciousness like Jaggery star. Samyutta Nikaya.
What is karma? Karma is an impersonal, natural law that operates in accordance with our actions. It is a law in itself and does not have any lawgiver. Karma operates in its own field without the intervention of an external, independent, ruling agent. Karma can be put in the simple language of the child: do good and good will come to you, now, and hereafter. Do bad and bad will come to you, now, or hereafter. In the language of the harvest, karma can be explained in this way: if you sow good seeds, you will reap a good harvest. If you sow bad seeds, you will reap a bad harvest. In the language of science, karma is called the law of cause and effect. Every cause has an effect. Another name for this is the law of moral causation. Moral causation works in the moral realm just as the physical law of action and reaction works in the physical realm. In the Dhammapada, karma is explained in this manner: the mind is the chief, forerunner, of all good and bad states. If you speak or act with a bad mind, then unhappiness follows you just as the wheel follows the hoof of the ox. If you speak or act with a good mind, then happiness follows you like the shadow that never leaves you. Karma is simply action. Within animate organisms there is a power or force which is given different names such as instinctive tendencies, consciousness, etc. This innate propensity forces every conscious being to move. A person moves mentally or physically. His motion is action. The repetition of actions is habit and habit becomes one's character. In Buddhism, this process is called karma. In its ultimate sense, karma means both good and bad, mental action or volition. Karma is volition, says the Buddha. Thus karma is not an entity but a process, action, energy, and force. Some interpret this force as action influence. It is our own doings reacting on ourselves. The pain and happiness a person experiences are the results of his or her own deeds, words and thoughts reacting on themselves. Our deeds, words and thoughts produce our prosperity and failure, our happiness and misery. Karma is an impersonal, natural law that operates strictly in accordance with our actions. It is a law in itself and does not have any lawgiver. Karma operates in its own field without the intervention of an external, independent ruling agency. Since there is no hidden agent directing or administering rewards and punishments, Buddhists do not rely on prayer to some supernatural forces to influence karmic results. According to the Buddha, karma is neither predestination nor determinism imposed on us by some mysterious, unknown powers or forces to which we must helplessly submit ourselves. Buddhists believe that one will reap what one has sown. We are the result of what we were, and we will be the result of what we are. In other words, we are not absolutely what we were, and we will not continue to remain as what we are. This simply means that karma is not complete determinism. The Buddha pointed out that if everything is fixed and determined, then there would be no free will and no moral or spiritual life. we would merely be the slaves of our past. On the other hand, if everything is undetermined, then there can be no cultivation of moral and spiritual growth. The Buddha again declared the truth of the middle path, that karma is to be understood as neither strict determinism nor absolute indeterminism but as an interaction of both. Misconceptions regarding karma. The misinterpretations or irrational views on karma are stated in the Anguttara Nikaya, which suggests that the wise will investigate and abandon the following views. 1. The belief that everything is a result of acts in previous lives. 2. The belief that everything is the result of what is willed by a supreme creator, and 3. The belief that everything arises without reason or cause. If a person becomes a murderer, a thief, or an adulterer, and if his or her actions are due to past actions, or are caused by the whim of a supreme being, or if it happened by mere chance, then this person could not be held responsible for his or her evil action, as everything was predetermined. Yet another misconception about karma is that it operates only for certain people according to their faiths. But the destiny of a person in the next life does not in the least depend on what particular religion he or she chooses. Whatever one's religion may be, one's fate depends entirely on deeds committed by body, speech, and thought. It does not matter what religious label one holds, one is bound to be in a happy world in the next life so long as one does good deeds and leads an unblemished life. One is bound to be born to lead a wretched life if one commits evil and harbors wicked thoughts in the mind. Therefore, Buddhists do not proclaim that they are the only blessed people who can go to heaven after their death. Whatever religion is professed or without any religious label, karmic thoughts alone determine a person's destiny both in this life and in the next. The teaching of karma does not indicate a post-mortem justice. The Buddha did not teach this law of karma to protect the rich and to comfort the poor by promising illusory happiness in an afterlife. According to Buddhism, karma explains the inequalities that exist among mankind. These inequalities are due not only to heredity, environment, and nature but also to karma, or the results of our own actions. Indeed, karma is one of the factors which are responsible for the success and the failure of our lives. Since karma is an invisible force, we cannot see it working with our physical eyes. To understand how karma works, we can compare it to seeds. The results of karma are stored in the subconscious mind in the same way as the leaves, flowers, fruits, and trunk of a tree are stored in its seed. Under favorable conditions, the fruits of karma will be produced just as with moisture and light. The leaves and trunk of a tree will sprout from its tiny seed. The taste of the fruits also carry forward just like karmic energy creates the effect. The working of karma can also be compared to a bank account. A person who is virtuous, charitable, and benevolent in this present life is like a person who is adding to his or her good karma account. This accumulated good karma can be used to ensure a trouble-free life. But the person must replace what is taken, or else one day, the account will be depleted and that person will be bankrupt. Then who can be blamed for one's miserable state? One can blame neither others nor fate. One alone is responsible. Thus a good Buddhist cannot be an escapist but must confront life as it is and not run away from it. The karmic force cannot be controlled by inactivity. Vigorous activity for good is indispensable for one's own happiness. Escapism is the resort of the weak, and an escapist cannot run away from the effects of karmic law. The Buddha says, there is no place to hide in order to escape from karmic results. Dhammapada 127. Our own experience. To understand the law of karma is to realize that we ourselves are responsible for our own happiness and our own misery. We are the architects of our karma. Buddhism explains that we have every opportunity to mold our own karma and thereby influence the direction of our lives. On the other hand, we are not complete prisoners of our own actions. We are not slaves to our karma. Nor are we mere machines that automatically release instinctive forces that enslave us. Nor are we mere products of nature. We have within ourselves the strength and the ability to change our karma. Our minds are mightier than our karma, and so the law of karma can be made to serve us. We do not have to give up our hope and effort in order to surrender ourselves to our own karmic force. To offset the reaction of our bad karma that we have accumulated previously, we have to do more meritorious deeds and purify our minds rather than simply rely on worshipping, performing rites or torturing our physical bodies in order to overcome our karmic effects. Therefore, a person can overcome the effect of his or her evil deeds if he or she acts wisely by leading a noble life. We must use the qualities with which we are endowed to promote our ideal. The cards in the game of life are within us. We do not select them. They are traced to our past karma, but we can call as we please, do what suits us, and as we play, we either gain or lose, depending on our skill or lack of it. Karma is equated to the action of a person. This action also creates some karmic results. But each and every action carried out without any purposeful intention cannot become a kusala karma, skillful action, or akusala karma, unskillful action. That is why the Buddha describes karma as volitional activities. That means, whatever good and bad deeds we commit without any purposeful intention, are not strong enough to be carried forward to our next life. However, ignorance of the nature of the good and bad effect of the karma is not an excuse to justify or avoid the karmic results if they were committed intentionally. A small child or an ignorant man may commit many evil deeds. Since they commit such deeds with intention to harm or injure, it is difficult to say that they are free from the karmic results. If that child touches a burning iron rod, the heat element does not spare the child of pain. The karmic energy also works exactly in the same manner. Karmic energy is unbiased, like gravity it is impartial. The radical transformations in the characters of Angulimala and Asoka illustrate human beings' potential to gain control over karmic forces. Angulimala was a highway robber who murdered more than 1,000 of his fellow men. Can we judge him by his external actions? For within his lifetime, through sheer self-effort, he became an Arahanta and thus redeemed his past misdeeds. Asoka, the Emperor of India, killed thousands and thousands to fight his wars and to expand his empire. Yet after winning the battle, he completely reformed himself and changed his career to such an extent that today, amidst the tens of thousands of names of monarchs that crowd the columns of history, their majesties and royal highnesses and the like, the name of Asoka shines and shines almost alone, as a star, says the historian, H.G. Wells. Other factors which support karma. Although Buddhism says that a person can eventually control his or her karmic force, it does not state that everything is due to karma. Buddhism does not ignore the role played by other forces of nature. According to Buddhism, there are 5 orders or processes of natural laws, niyama, which operate in the physical and mental worlds. 1 U2 niyama, seasonal laws, relating to the physical and organic order, e.g., seasonal phenomena of winds and rains, etc. 2 Bija niyama, biological laws, relating to the order of germs and seeds. 3 Karma niyama, karmic law, relating to moral causation or the order of act and result. 4 Dharma niyama, natural phenomena, relating to electrical forces, movement of tides, etc., and 5 Citta niyama, psychological laws, which govern the processes of consciousness. Thus karma is considered only as one of the 5 natural laws that account for the diversity in this world. Can karma be changed? Karma is often influenced by circumstances. Beneficent and malevolent forces act to counter and to support this self-operating law. The other forces that either aid or hinder this karma are birth, time, or conditions, appearances, and effort. A favorable birth, gati sampati, or an unfavorable birth, vipatti, can develop or hinder the fruition of karma. For instance, if a person is born to a noble family or in a state of happiness, his fortunate birth will provide an easy opportunity for his good karma to operate. An unintelligent person who, by some good karma, is born in a royal family, will, on account of his noble parentage, be honored by the people. If the same person were to have a less fortunate birth, he would not be similarly treated. Good appearance, upati sampati, and poor appearance, upati vipati, are two other factors that hinder or favor the working of karma. If by some good karma, a person obtains a good birth, but is born deformed by some bad karma, then he or she will not be able to fully enjoy the beneficial results of good karma. Even a legitimate heir to a throne may not perhaps be raised to that high position if he happens to be physically or mentally deformed. Beauty, on the other hand, will be an asset to the possessor. A good-looking son of poor parents may attract the attention of others and may be able to distinguish himself through their influence. Also, we can find cases of people from poor, obscure family backgrounds who rise to fame and popularity as film actors or actresses or beauty queens. Time and occasion are other factors that influence the working of karma. In the time of famine or during the time of war, all people without exception are forced to suffer the same fate. Here the unfavorable conditions open up possibilities for evil karma to operate. The favorable conditions, on the other hand, will prevent the operation of bad karma. Effort or intelligence is perhaps the most important of all the factors that affect the working of karma. Without effort, both worldly and spiritual progress is impossible. If we do not make the effort to cure our disease, or to save ourselves from difficulties, or to strive with diligence for progress, then evil karma will find a suitable opportunity to manifest its due effects. However, if we endeavor to surmount difficulties and problems, our good karma will come to help. When shipwrecked in a deep sea, the Bodhisattva during one of his previous births, made an effort to save himself and his old mother, while the others prayed to the gods and left their fate in the hands of these gods. The result was that the Bodhisattva escaped while the others were drowned. Thus the working of karma is aided or obstructed by birth, beauty and ugliness, time and personal effort or intelligence. However, people can overcome immediate karmic effects by adopting certain methods. Yet, they are not completely free from such karmic effects if they remain within this samsara cycle of birth and death. Whenever opportunities arise, the same karmic effects that were suppressed can affect them again. This is the uncertainty of worldly life. Even the Buddha and Arahants were affected by certain karmas, although they were in their final life. The time factor is another important aspect of the karmic energy for people to experience the good and bad effects of previous actions. People experience certain karmic effects only within this lifetime, while certain karmic effects become effective immediately hereafter in the next birth. And certain other karmic effects follow the doers as long as they remain in this wheel of existence until they stop their rebirth after attaining nirvana. The main reason for this difference is owing to mental impulsion, javana siddha, at the time when a thought arises in the mind to do good or bad. Impartial energy. Those who do not believe that there is an energy known as karma should understand that this karmic energy is not a byproduct of any particular religion, although Hinduism, Buddhism, and Jainism recognize and explain the nature of this energy. This is an existing universal law which has no religious label. All those who violate this law have to face the consequences irrespective of their religious beliefs, and those who live in accordance with this law experience peace and happiness in their life. Therefore, this karmic law is unbiased towards each and every person, whether they believe it or not, whether they have a religion or not. It is like any other existing universal law. Karma is not the exclusive property of Buddhism. If we understand karma as a force or a form of energy, then we can discern no beginning. To ask where is the beginning of karma is like asking where is the beginning of electricity. Karma, like electricity, does not begin. It comes into being under certain conditions. Conventionally we say that the origin of karma is volition, but this is as much conventional as saying that the origin of a river is a mountain top. Like the waves of the ocean that flow into one another, one unit of consciousness flows into another, and this merging of one thought consciousness into another is called the working of karma. In short, every living being, according to Buddhism, is an electric current of life that operates on the automatic switch of karma. Karma, being a form of energy, is not found anywhere in this fleeting consciousness or body. Just as mangoes are not stored anywhere in the mango tree but, dependent on certain conditions, they spring into being, so does karma. Karma is like wind or fire. It is not stored up anywhere in the universe but comes into being under certain conditions. Classification of karma. Karma is classified in 4 ways according to 1. The time in which effects are worked out. 2. Function kika. 3. The priority of effect, and 4. The place in which the karmic effects transpire. There are moral and immoral actions which may produce their due effects in this very life. They are called immediately effective ditha dharma vedanaya karma. If they do not operate in this life, they become ineffective ahosi. There are some actions which may produce their effects in a subsequent life. They are termed subsequently effective upapaja vedaniya karma. They too become ineffective if they do not operate in the second birth. Those actions which may produce their effects in any life in the course of one's wandering in samsara, are known as indefinitely effective apariparya vedaniya karma. This classification of karma is with reference to the time in which effects are worked out. There are 4 classes of karma according to function kika. Every birth is conditioned by past good and bad karma that predominates at the moment of death. The karma that conditions the future birth is called reproductive janaka karma. Now another karma may step forward to assist or maintain the action of this reproductive karma. Just as this karma has the tendency to strengthen the reproductive karma, some other action which tends to weaken, interrupt, the fruition of the reproductive karma may step in. Such actions are respectively termed supportive upathamhaka karma and counteractive upapadaka karma. According to the law of karma, the potential energy of the reproductive karma could be nullified by a more powerful opposing karma of the past, which, seeking an opportunity, may quite unexpectedly operate, just as a powerful opposing force can check the path of the flying arrow and bring it down to the ground. Such an action is called destructive upagataka karma, which is more effective than supportive and counteractive karma in that it not only obstructs but also destroys the whole force. There are 4 classes of karma according to the priority of effect. The first is garuka, which means weighty or serious. This karma, which is either good or bad, produces results in this life, or in the next for certain. If good, it is purely mental, as in the case of Johanna's ecstasies. Otherwise it is verbal or bodily. The 5 kinds of weighty karma are 1. Matricide, 2. Patricide, 3. The murder of an arahant, 4. The wounding of a Buddha, and 5. The creation of a schism in the Sangha. Permanent skepticism niyata michadathi is also termed one of the weighty karmas. In the absence of a weighty karma to condition the next birth, a death proximate karma asana might operate. This is the karma one does immediately before the dying moment. Habitual asana karma is the next in priority of effect. It is the karma that one habitually performs and recollects and for which one has a great liking. The 4th is the accumulative katata karma, which embraces all that cannot be included in the above 3. This is as it were the reserve fund of a particular being. The last classification is according to the place in which the karma effects transpire, namely 1. Evil karma akusala, which may ripen in the sentient plane kamaloka. 2. Good karma kusala, which may ripen in the sentient plane. 3. Good karma, which may ripen in the realm of form Rupa Loka. 4. Good karma, which may ripen in the formless realms Arupa Loka. Is everything due to karma? Although Buddhism attributes the inequality of mankind as one of the chief effects amongst many, yet it does not assert that everything is due to karma. If everything is due to karma, a person would always be bad if it was his or her karma to be bad. One would not need to consult a physician to be cured of a disease, for if one's karma were such, one would be cured. Why some wicked people enjoy, while some good people suffer? Some people ask, if good begets good and bad begets bad, why should many good people suffer and some wicked people prosper in this world? The answer to this question, according to the Buddhist point of view, is that although some are good by nature, they have not accumulated enough good merits in their previous birth to compensate for the bad effects of unwholesome karma in this present life. Somewhere in their past there must have been some defect. On the other hand, some are wicked by nature and yet are able to enjoy this life for a short period due to some strong good karma that they accumulated in their previous birth. For example, there are certain people who by nature have inherited a strong constitution and as a result enjoy perfect health. Their physical power of resistance is strong and hence they are not prone to illnesses. Although they do not take special precautions to lead a hygienic life, they are able to remain strong and healthy. On the other hand, there are others who take various tonics and vitamins-enriched foods to fortify themselves, but in spite of their efforts to become strong and healthy, their health does not show any improvement. Generally speaking, whatever good and bad deeds people commit within this lifetime, they will definitely experience the reaction within this life or hereafter. It is impossible to escape from their results simply by praying, but only by cultivating the mind and leading a noble life. This is not to say that everything that we suffer or enjoy today is completely controlled by our past actions, which we call karma. The Buddha says that if this was so, then there would be no purpose in living a moral life, as we would then be simply victims of the past. Buddhists assert that while our lives were conditioned in the past, it is entirely within ourselves to change that condition and to create our future and present well-being. Buddhists do not subscribe to predestination or fatalism as the only possible explanations for the human condition. Buddhists are encouraged to do good deeds not for the sake of gaining a place in heaven. They are expected to do good in order to eradicate their selfishness and to experience peace and happiness at each present moment. When each present moment is carefully controlled, the future well-being is assured. He for whom there is neither this shore nor the other shore, nor yet both, he who is free of cares and is unfettered, him do I call a holy man. Dhammapada 385.